says a woman is anemic and has to have an iron transfusion every 20 days. So there's the first fact, that something is happening every 20 days. One side effect is her white blood cell count goes up and then back down between treatments. So we get the idea that it's a sinusoid and things are going up and down. Okay? On January 7th, the first day of treatment. So, that's another fact, right? On the first day of treatment, her white blood cell count is at a low of 7. That's a fact, right? Halfway between treatments, halfway, now she's at a high of 15. Another fact. Okay? Assume her white blood cell count varies sinusoidally with the day of the year. So, on January 7th was the first day of treatment. What's January 7th? The phase displacement. Because that's when is the first day of treatment. So right there is your phase displacement. She goes in and has iron every 20 days. What's 20 days? The period. Because after 20 days, she goes back in again and does it over again. Okay? The low of 7 and the high of 15 tell you what? There's your maximum, there's your minimum. Somewhere in the middle, at the number 11, is the sinusoidal axis. Now, when she goes in on January 7th, the first day of treatment, where is she? She's at a low. What does that mean? It means if it's starting at a low point, it's cosine, but cosine reflected. Exactly. Because on January 7th, the first day of treatment, the beginning of the period, she is at a low. If something starts at a high or a low, cosine is the best one to use. It's a reflected cosine graph. So y equals a cosine b x minus d plus c. We know we're using cosine. Does everybody remember why we're using cosine? Okay. We know this is x minus 7 because of the phase displacement. This 7, not this 7. Okay? Because on the first day of treatment, so there's a horizontal translation, 7 units right. Okay? And what's c? Plus 11, because we said that's the location of the sinusoidal axis. And what's the amplitude? 4. Why? Because from 11, we go 4 up, we're at 15. We go 4 down, we're at 7. And we said this was negative because it's starting at a low point. B is the hardest thing to put in the problem. 2 pi divided by the period is B. We don't know B, but we know the period. The period's 20. So 2 pi divided by 20, in other words, pi over 10 is the period. Or is B, sorry, is B. The period's 20. Pi over 10 is B. So if we were to graph this problem, y equals -4 cosine pi over 10 x minus 7 plus 11. If we were to graph this problem, remember what we said before. These values help you graph y, and these things help you graph x. Okay? So what do we know? We know that our sinusoidal axis is going to be at 11. We know that the high is 15. So there's our max. We know the low is 7, 10, 9, 8, 7. There's our low. So that's what I mean when I say this number and this number help you graph y. Okay? Now, we know the phase displacement is January 7th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Assuming the x-axis is the month of January, it's starting at January 7th. Now, the period is 20 days. Anytime you're graphing cosine or sine, you know that the graph shifts every... When you're graphing a normal cosine or sine, the graph shifts every 90 degrees. And so it shifts how many times? 4. Whatever the period is, divide it by 4. If this problem was that the person has to do something every 120 days, then it would move every 30 days. Since this happens to her every 20 days, it moves every 5 days. You always divide the period by 4, just like the normal unit circle. And that means the graph's going to move every 5 days in this case. Do you understand why 5 days? Because the period was 20. You always divide by 4. Always. Okay? So here's January 7th. In 5 days, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Something's going to happen on January 12th. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Something's going to happen on January 17th. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Something's going to happen on January 22nd. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Something's going to happen then. And so on. Okay? What did they tell us happened on January 7th? Oh, wait. All of these numbers should have been down here at 0, not up here. Okay, sorry, I'm a little tired. So here's January 7th. Does everybody see what the mistake I made?
Yes.
I've been teaching nonstop since this morning. I'm a little tired. Okay. So this should have been the 7th. This should have been the 12th. This should have been the 17th. That should have been the 22nd. That should have been the 27th. I wrote it up too high. Okay? So on the 7th, where is she? She's at a low. 5 days later, you've moved to the sinusoidal axis. 5 days later, you've moved to the maximum point. 5 days later, you're back on the sinusoidal axis. 5 days later, you're at a low point. Get it?